A good illustration would be the research I conducted on seniors from the Tamil Canadian community, or the diaspora, in Toronto. And that research was a focus on older seniors who attended a community-based senior center in the East End of Toronto. And my interest in doing a participant observation amongst senior Tamil Canadians was to understand how they made sense and whether or not they found multiculturalism valuable for making them feel as if they belonged to Canada. Now, the backdrop to my research on that topic was that I had done research in India, I had done research in Tamil Nadu, and I wanted to understand the immigrant experience and focus on research closer to home. So a good example of a more recent project I did that used a more synthetic approach was a study on elders or seniors who frequented a multicultural senior center in Toronto. And the three groups of people who frequented that center were Chinese-speaking, English-speaking, and Tamil Canadian or Tamil-speaking seniors who lived in the East End. I decided to focus research on Tamil Canadian seniors because I had done research in India and had some familiarity with some of the cultural backdrop and the historical backdrop of southern India and Sri Lanka. Also, as an anthropologist, I was interested in bringing a cultural analysis closer to home. That is, thinking about how we could use the tools in anthropology of analyzing cultures and thinking culturally to understand how immigrants might experience a sense of belonging, or whether or not they experienced a sense of belonging. Specifically, I was interested in whether multiculturalism, which Canadians consider to be a prominent feature of our national identity, supported or made senior Tamil Canadians feel like they were part of Canada. Now, what made that project synthetic is that I drew on a couple of different sets of ideas that don't come from a single place. For one thing, I used the cultural analysis tools that I already had, that anthropology had trained me to think through. And some of those tools were to understand culture as being a set of shared practices that were both contested and produced through people and through generations and through social groups. On the other hand, within anthropology, the approach to culture was one where we deconstructed the way culture got taken up in discourses. So there was already a two-sided approach to culture that I brought with me when I went to do interviews and spend some time with Tamil Canadians. But I had to use other research and other theoretical insights in order to actually engage and to make sense of the experiences that I began to hear as I spent time at the senior center, attending lunches, doing interviews, conducting a conversation group with a group of people who frequented the center on a regular basis. The second area or theoretical approach I found important was to look at a transnational approach to immigration and migration. The reason I chose this sort of set of ideas was because it was one that allowed you to conduct interviews and make sense and work with people who had lived a large part of their lives elsewhere and therefore had a migration experience, had a set of stories that were rooted in the decision to move from one place and take up residence somewhere else. I also felt that the transnational approach to migration helped us to think critically about Canadian multiculturalism. So, in many ways, when you stand back, I chose a couple of different theoretical strands that helped me to interrogate Canadian multiculturalism by thinking about culture critically, thinking about culture as a discourse, but also allowing and foregrounding the transnational experience of senior Tamil Canadians, and I tried to elicit that as I conducted life histories with them.